are here. Get that off real quick. We're gonna get nice and comfy. We got apathy and content in here. We have Omega here. We are gonna have a chit chat. This is the at the moment name pending. It is the Shit Podcast. Still pending. We have no idea what we're gonna make it. And we got our host, myself, Omega, Apathy and Content, also known as Birdie, as the guest for tonight. And we are going to be going over VHS, a little bit of ASIM talk, and just our experiences in general with what VHS, has taught us in the world of this 4v1 that's growing every day. And to start off, whoopsie, yeah, so getting used to it. To start off, Birdie, you and me both started playing VHS. I think you started before me. You started doing the like the first beta, no?
Closed
You
beta.
got in. Like you actually got in
Yeah.
real early. And how did that go for you?
Uh, Honestly, it was more just like queues were popping off at a decent rate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess since there was a lot of hype around it, people were interested, were popping off queues. Um,
It
a lot
was
of pretty much werewolves and warts, that's for sure. I think I only went against one puppet master the whole time I was playing.
yeah, he's a tricky one to learn.
Yeah.
Um I got to play it in later on in the second wave, and I enjoyed myself surprisingly because compared to, if you guys know who I am, I play DVD. So I play DVD and I play IDV. And similar games, different tempos for sure, and a different in perk system and stuff. But there is a general thing of cat and mouse. In IDV, it's a bit more aggressive. The survivors can fight back in their own ways. But with VHS, they went a different route. They went to the whole 80s style, super vibrant colors, old school monsters and whatnot. And it's a really cool shindig. But the main difference in VHS when other asymmetricals are talked about, and that's what I think Birdie was saying, it was growing, it was popping, queues were like within a minute. It was a real different uh situation compared to DVD. And in VHS, you fight each other genuinely. You both make the monsters have their weapons, their special abilities, and the teenagers make weapons. They heal, they cut off stuff. There's a cool demon eye. Like it can be very fun, and that's its you could say that that's the defining factor. DVD has its flagship characters from other legacies, and its cat and mouse game style, and VHS is going for the whole you both can be aggressive and you both have to fight, like I guess you will compare it to Birdie like a capture the flag or like a domination kind of a thing. Or like a king of the hill. There you go. It's like who can keep this point the longest and whatnot, and it goes back and forth. It's like a tug and pull.
Momentum.
Yeah, yeah, you go. And it's been changing quite lately, huh? And the one thing that even I admit when I played it, the VHS during the beta, and right now it's open beta, and the numbers have completely changed. A lot of people have their opinions of what's going on. Is it, you know, killers are too easy, killers are too hard, are teens too easy, we are teens too hard, and then the conversation of like solo queue comes up, and what about, 3 stacks or 4 stacks? It's a lot of these same problems happening, like in DVD, for example, or in IDV. And the difference that I think Yumi can both agree on, Birdie, is the game has a balance. And DBD has recently had its meta rework, and we can argue it's balanced or not, but to what I feel, it's pretty good. It's both sides still feel like they were both brought down, but they were both at the same par in a lot of regards. So we can argue the balance there. But for VHS, they're really keen on the feedback and making sure a side isn't just stomping another one. They do these tiny tweaks, but some of those tiny tweaks can do big implications, like what they just did with Puppet Master, which I don't know how I feel about it, but it's weird. And what do you think about that one then? Do you think that's a positive way to go at it, getting it balanced as much as you can?
Yeah, I think they need to. That's the constant battle with any multiplayer game, and
Yeah.
it's a bit more difficult when it comes to games that either have a like I guess asymmetrical, the whole 4v1 that
Oh,
makes it
especially
difficult.
yeah.
And I know in MMOs they have a lot of classes are just extremely one hit kill type classes, and of course that would be extremely unbalanced, so they have to find a way to work around that to make it still fun, um without nerfing the people's classes to the point where they just don't want to play them anymore, but still creating that balance. And asymmetrical, yeah, it's a very difficult genre to play back and forth with the changes.
The one thing that I noticed
A lot of,
when well, you go on, you can finish.
I was just gonna say a lot of trial and error.
It like I'm pretty. I would say I'm casual. I can be competitive. I've had those moments myself. I think you guys even roasted me. Like, was it last month or 2 months ago, where I said DBD is a party game. I know. I I I said it, but now there's a lot more balance going on, and now I can see myself taking that back, because the game is actually balanced, and in some regards, you can actually make it an actual viable competitive game. The thing about VHS, they're really making that like the focus of making this as balanced as possible. And the one thing, like for example, DBD is always like the main criticism is it's the same thing every game. You run, you chase somebody, you try to get them as efficient as you can. People do their objectives, you do your objective, and you have to be efficient, right? In VHS, it's kind of in the same ballpark of it's the same thing where you have to find the people first. You have to make sure you take them down as quick as you can, and you have to try to go back and forth with them trying to kill you, right?
Yeah, tug of war.
The tug of war. Like the at the first within the first 3 4 minutes, monsters are the strongest. After that, the mid game becomes pretty much fair game, depending who takes the first hit. And then end game, everybody's OP. There's 3 4 weapons. You are trying to, or honestly, no, that's a lie. Teen is strong because now everybody has the power to kill you, and now you're running up to try to get up there and be like, all right, crap, I don't want to get cornered, I don't want to get stun locked, and this and that, and I need to make sure I don't get destroyed. And that's the problem that I might see it being a sort of issue because the last game I remember seeing trying to do this was Evolve, and I did a little refresher on Evolve, and I feel bad for them because the team behind them they had their plans, but they kind of got constricted into uh, THQ's agenda and milking the game for what it was. But they had focused on making it competitive and doing all these tweaks. When the behemoths were OP, they got nerfed. When they
Yeah,
were still strong or exploitable, they fixed it. You know, and a lot of things were constrained with the environments and this and that. Like that's a whole another conversation. But like they were trying to make the game as balanced as possible, and what ended up happening is these games didn't turned into either being too quick or too long or too fast. It was just these games were who could essentially camp each other the longest. Like they were campy games and they weren't fun. And that's the thing that I'm starting to look at when I look at VHS anyway. I mean, I'm not OP. I'm not a crazy, amazing player, but I still get slapped. I get like one win, like maybe five losses or more. But the games are quick, But what's gonna happen whenever everything gets to a point where you meet your skill level and the games are just like these long 20-30 minute games of cat and mouse, which some people love that. They love the back and forth, like they live for that, and more power to them. But they the MMR hopefully keeps getting checked up on that, and hopefully the weapons too, because some weapons. I'm not gonna argue weapon balance. I don't really play teens as much. I play a lot more killer, and to what my experience is in the killer side is the one thing that feels bad when you're in your own skill gap is getting stunned back to back, which happens a lot more now. And that could be attributed to the people just playing more than me, me falling into the obvious traps. We can say all these things, but just a stun lock in general never feels good. And I think even you've brought this up before that, you know, a stun lock mechanic just never feels good anywhere, right?
Yeah, it's something that's notoriously it's infamous in MMO games. Like sure in shooters, stun grenades, flash grenades, it's not that long of a lasting effect and you can still fight back. But I know Neverwinter and BDO, which are very notorious for having wizards that can just infinite stun you. And I know it was constant meta change, constant nerf and buff to the point where, and I think we're in mod 22 on Neverwinter, people don't want to play wizard anymore because they just can't really keep the stuns. Stuns have been nerfed, and if you're like a CC build who wants to support the team, not even do PvP, like if you're trying to support the team, most of those epic ice freezing stuns that you had that would
Yeah.
control mobs don't exist anymore. So you're very limited because of the constant complaining that was there in the past for PvP, and it hurt
Hmm.
the whole future of the game because no one even wants to bother making a wizard anymore.
So
So
okay.
yeah, stuff like that can be detrimental, especially when you can catch it early, because people really do despise like being locked and stunned. People will start throwing the "it doesn't take skill" card out there, and we don't want to start doing that. And it's just not good overall, in my opinion. And I
Hmm.
haven't seen a successful game implement it unless you're doing PVE, because who's going to lose in the end? You're completing the
Yeah.
objective, right?
Yeah. I
So,
mean, you
but
tend
in a
to.
PvP, yeah, in a PvP, I've never seen anyone implement it where both sides are happy, content, like, oh, I'll take the L because it was a good match, GG's all around, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those hard things
Okay.
to.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to be like, oh, this is how you fix it. Um, I mean, you call it controversial, but I think I would agree with the thing that you brought up before, is the stun mechanics should have a decreasing value. So the stun gets lesser and lesser the more you get stunned, or get rid of the stuns after the first initial stun, after you get banished, and keep it at a slowdown after that. So you can still stun them. Like it kind of puts value on the weapon now. Like, oh, I have the fire sigil. I'm gonna stun them, and now you can get the other sigil off. But if you miss the stun or if you miss the timing, that the power level of that weapon has now dropped down dramatically. although you can still use it for defense and like support, the slowdown effect, but the stun is now effectively gone. With that, I mean, that's just me throwing something out. It's not me saying like this is
Yeah,
how
it
you
makes
do it,
sense.
but that would give the weapon a bit more value, for it being like a quote unquote fresh thing, and it's still usable
Yeah, I
even
think
after that.
overall, yeah, that would feel better because if I remember correctly, you can stack stuns, right? Because if let's
Yeah.
say in a
Well, it
scenario
feels
where
like it is. Yeah. Hmm.
everyone has weapons, right? They could just alternate you until they get the required weapon kill, and you can't escape that. So if they added like only one weapon can give you that stun, and any other attacks after that are just pure damage, no stacking
Yeah.
uh stun slows.
And it doesn't give or take too much. Yeah, you lose the
Yeah.
rest of the stuns, but that first stun is even more crucial now. I mean, like, oh, somebody already stunned him with the fire signal. Okay, so I'll just make this weapon for a slowdown. And
Yeah.
it might lead to obvious weapon choices, but it's not the same as in, oh, just use this one and stun him every time. Like at least it gives
Yeah.
something of a small change. But I don't know. It could be a terrible
Yeah.
idea, but
It throws another variable in there that allows the I guess the teen side to build up that whole muscle memory, figuring out the right timing, and I think it would add more skill play, but not in an annoying way. It'd just be
mm-hmm.
something that
it it
something you
it
would
still feels
learn.
natural.
Yeah. It wouldn't be like, oh, nerf the weapons to all hell. They do no damage and you need all four at the same
Yeah,
time.
which
That'd
is
be
what I've
horrible, right?
seen, but I don't want that
Yeah.
because then you fall into the trap of, oh, now monsters too strong, oh, now teens are too
Yeah.
strong, and that's a painful thing. So you gotta find these little, you know, maybe killers, or I'm sorry, I know DBD, but maybe like monsters can get some more loving, but I don't know exactly because there's three different monsters, so uh obviously I'd have to play a little more. But with the weapon stuns, which I do know because I get stunned to almighty hell. I mean, I think those would be something. I don't know. It it's a better thing to think of a different idea instead of just saying, "Oh, just get good," which has kind of been.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds a little mean, but whenever I actually went around some streamers too to look and chat, that was kind of the general statements of like, "Oh, just play more." Give the game a chance, play some more. And this was before they implemented that MMR fix a few days ago. And I'm hoping the MMR tweak fixed it because there was actually a known bug. That's why I had a 1 hour queue when I was playing last week or so. Yeah, that was a little surprising, but that was it. That was due to a bug, and they did work on the MMR a bit more, so that sounds pretty nice. And we'll see how this comes along the next few weeks on this change. But the thing that was a bit of a surprise was that even though everybody was being kind about it, play the game, give it more time, give it, learn the mechanics, play some teen, this and that. That's all constructive and all, but when the teen queues were like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, etc., and then you're matched up with a baby person, or they're like, holy hell, this guy's gonna, he clapped everybody in like 5 minutes. Those aren't great experiences, and you don't really learn. Now, granted,
Yeah.
that was from the past. This is now. We got the tweaks, which is amazing, but but it kind of makes you wonder, like, how many people would have stayed if maybe either side wasn't so harsh like that due to the MMR. And instead of people just saying, you got, by bare bones, it's basically saying get good. And I know that's
Yeah.
not something people want to hear. Like, oh, I have to get good. I gotta go do my homework, go look at frame data, do this and that, and go watch certain rewind partners or YouTube videos to learn the ins and outs. Which is, everybody can do that, but it'd be better to just have the game grow organically, which how it was in the beta until they had their blackout time and then they came back and now they're trying to work their ways back up and build up. but nobody's really staying. And like we can look at the numbers. I think the lowest, and I don't mean to just make this a numbers conversation, but I think I saw a peak of like over 900 and like a mid low of about, I think it was 300-400 people at the lowest. So I think there was a high point when they did some of the rewinder stuff about over 1500, 2000, but it just went right back down to like 500. And that's a little nerve-wracking. And I want VHS to succeed, by the way. It's a fun game, but it's kind of teeter-tottering on this, you know, oh boy, I hope we're fine, and like the room's on fire with the doggy meme. This is okay. Maybe they need some more advertisement, or maybe the balancing could be a thing. Because how did you feel that? Because I basically explained my experience on the game. With what you've played, how did you feel the game felt overall, or maybe what would you change before we go on? Because I
I
feel like
feel like
I'm like skipping you. So go on.
I feel like there's really no incentive to play Monster, in my opinion, because if
Hmm.
if your sole goal is to win and you really don't care how you do it, playing as team, even as a noob, because I'm casual when it comes to these games, and I feel like if you just wanted to win, get that dopamine hit,
Get that dub.
it's just, yeah, better to just play team because there's really no incentive to play monster. It's by default you're gonna you're gonna have to try
It
regardless.
is
You're gonna have to
a
try.
harder role comparatively. Yeah.
So maybe if they dumped some 2 times XP for a certain amount of the day, I don't know if they currently do that or
They implemented a
maybe
change before. It was a 10% bonus to needed side. And I think they're looking at a tweak to make it scale up depending on the amount of people. So I think it was referenced to a 50% bonus to killer, for example, and vice versa team. So, and it's to I believe XP and bonus, like XP and your uh your progression on your movies, which is, it's not bad. That sounds pretty good. It might help, but I do see your point. It's like, why play the harder role? Just play teens. Be happy. Talk to chat. That's one thing I've seen a lot comparing to DVD. Uh, since teens are
yeah.
are a little bit laid back, you don't have to do too much, and you can interact with your community a little more. Comparing to Monster or Killer, you gotta like look at everything. Look at the gens, look who's making a weapon, or who just broke something, and now you gotta run away from the eyeball or the helicopter. And like there's so many little things that end up happening when you compare to teen. Oh, just hide and build your weapon. So yeah, I can see that. What do you think the incentives are enough then? Like, would that Jamie be enough? Or do you think there's something going on with like maybe the monsters have to feel like a monster? Because they one of the things they announced was a banishment buff. So whenever you get killed with the sigil, you disappear into the little demon for like 15 seconds now, I believe. Don't quote me. And they added this secondary effect of when you're banished and you come back out of the banishment during those 15 seconds, nobody can build or craft a weapon or charge. You can heal each other and ping and do all that, but you cannot work on a weapon. And when you respawn, it sends off a shockwave, so you're protected instead of spawning and then getting murked immediately. Which some teams are that good, and like they'll guess where you're gonna spawn. They find you a second later, and you're dead. So I think that's an interesting fix, and hopefully it's a nice feel good for the killer. But do you think that would be enough for the killer?
Unfortunately, I think we must ask patience from the community, and it's like I said, a bunch of trial and error because we
Yeah.
need more data. And in multiplayer games in general, you just need those months of data to stack up so you really know what's going on and know where to go from there. And I feel like um, most people don't have that patience anymore.
We could
They
say,
want that insta fix.
yeah. We can see that for a lot of things though. Like they just want the easy way out. When something's broken, what happens? Well, it gets abused, baby.
Yeah.
We've all experienced that and the cheese in a lot of games. Um, so what would be your idea of an actual, like if this was like a magic fix, like what do you think would have to be it? Like what could be the right path of doing something of having people wanting to play a monster? Aside from getting legacy
Uh,
characters, because that's kind of cheese. Oh, let's get
I
the thing or the blob, but like actual like game balance or game fix.
well, one, I think having bot matches where a killer can practice offline to their extent until they believe they're ready to play, at least so they can have a way to learn the maps. Because I, for one, don't have 5 friends that I can ask, hey, I need you to hop on VHS so I can learn these maps. I can learn these monsters. Let's play for a certain amount of hours. So if they had bot matches, that would allow for monsters to practice. Even if it's a private match, it doesn't even have to be like legit
Yeah,
XP game.
they do have a private
Because
room right now, which is good for practicing and stuff. You can go through the characters
the
and weapons and the killers, which is pretty nifty. But yeah, like you want like a genuine like 1v4
yeah,
bot
like
mode. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so you can see how things can play out and you can practice that skill because most people are gonna, fall on their face when they start their first monster matches. And usually, like, why it boils down to why should I be playing this? And that's literally it.
that's one thing I brought up a few times. It's and the response I was given whenever I stated, if somebody is casual, and I mean as casual as you can be, and they just I don't know, they play Candy Crush, and they're like, oh, I like 80s stuff, and then they see VHS, it's free, they download it. I like being a little competitive, and I like challenges. So whenever I get like a Swift and like DVD, I try my best. I'll get slapped, but it happens. In VHS, there's a different dynamic. You start the game off, you can't find anybody, you learn the patterns, and then I get slapped 10 times, and then I get one win, and I'm happy. But to somebody who doesn't know anything, this is like their first game. They're like, oh, everybody keeps saying VHS is a good game. They try it out, and they get dunked on like pretty bad because they know nothing of the game. And they might have that a few times. They might look at YouTube and everything, but when it comes down to it, practice makes perfect. Like you have to practice it. And I don't think people who are familiar with the genre are gonna have that mindset of, oh, you know what, if I only play 20 times, I'll get good. A lot of them are like what you just
Yeah.
said. Oh man, I just played 20 games and I won like one. F this game, I'm out. And they're just gonna not play the game. They're gonna go back to Candy Crush and forget all about it. And
Yeah.
that's not me trying to be mean about it. It's just like I would say you got to think a little bit broader. Like I'm
Uh,
casual, and even I know that competition and like feeding that tug and pull is good. But a lot of people don't want that tug and pull so early. They want to get their you know their big toe wet and
yeah.
go at their pace. But
That's another thing. I was what I meant by the community needs to understand because if you want your game to survive, and this goes for all games, as soon as you start gatekeeping in any way and throwing skill out there or get good out there, Sure, you can act high and mighty because you're winning your matches, but the more and more you push people away, you're not going to have any matches to win in the long run. There's going to be no queuing, no nothing. I myself play plenty obscure free to play games that don't even queue up. Hell, sometimes I get dev codes where they want me to review their game, but because they either A, limited those codes to a small batch of people who probably don't even download it,
Mm.
or B, it just never got enough advertisement, I get no queues. Like, go watch my Luminous Gate review. I could not get a queue.
I think
I
I
was
saw the
sitting there
first
playing
bit of that
against
one. Yeah, you were just
bots.
waiting there.
Yeah, I was waiting and I'm like, okay, this isn't happening. Luckily they had a bot mode so I can learn the game, practice it and give my 2 cents about it, but unfortunately sometimes that happens where you literally don't get a queue for the game and that's very unfortunate. So I would advise all gaming communities, even if you're Mr. Big Skill Elitist, you need to realize that if you start pushing away the small fish, you're going to go hungry and you're not going to have any more queues. So, in all due respect, respect your community. Bottom line.
I guess that could be a
That's what,
that's like a slippery slope too, because not to throw shade at anybody, uh, there's been talk now of uh the devs, you know, choosing certain opinions over others. Like if you're on Twitter or some media, you might have seen that some content creators are trying to voice their opinions, trying to voice fixes, exploits, etc. You know, things that are, that's feedback to the game, to VHS, and they're not getting any responses. Like they're actually getting, just ignored or maybe left on red even, but there's no confirmation, there's no anything. And the thing that I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know, devs are busy. We know this. Devs need to do work, code, whatever. Like they got a job. So props on Hellbent for trying to do their thing with a small team. But at the same time, when you go from like 95% communication, because I've been at almost the beginning, not entirely. I kind of got into it like a month late, but I could hop in Discord or I could hop in, some streamers, and there would be devs there talking, and everybody would just be chilling. They'd be answering questions. They'd be like super chill. I was like, oh, cool. Like the devs are pretty badass. Like they're, we're just talking about the game and what they do. But now when the feedback is needed, they're it even though they're not trying to, it paints this picture of we're only gonna accept these feedbacks, not those. And you kind of can't ignore the other feedbacks, like for example, they need to grow the game, so they need to do something with like the monster being shown off or more advertising, but they're just waiting on that. You know, that is a key factor right now. I think even Yumi can know, it's like they need to work on their advertising again because hello, you need humans, like come in humans please. And
yeah.
then uh other people have commented on some like monster changes. No response. You know. Again, I'm not trying to name drop, so we're not having any of that. But it's like, what's the what? Why are they doing so much? And then when they talk about the patches and this and that, it's like it's just reminding me of DBD, and it's kind of a little bit like like I don't want that to happen now, because in DVD, for example, like the Fog Whispers, although they're all just genuine people, and they're like the faces of DVD, some people take it as their opinions are going to matter a lot more than the general community. And since behavior is very quiet on a lot of things, I think we've all seen enough of that. It it's kind of a thing of, are y'all going to turn into this? Where in DBD, for example, a lot of people argue that they've been pretty survivor sided up until the last meta patch. And you could question that too, because they did nerf Thanatophobia, and people were like, going all crazy with their pitchforks. But are we too far off from that in VHS if they start selecting certain feedbacks and ignoring the big questions? Which granted, the patch they made kind of answered a lot of them. This was before the patch, by the way, just FYI, so nobody's like confused on like, hey man, they did this, they did this. Like, hold on, this was before the patch, so before this week, because this is the idea for the podcast beforehand. Plus we were doing the homework. Um, it just looks like that. Granted, the patch did fix a lot of the MMR and the bugs, and there was some slight balancing. Like how you said, give the game its time, let the game breathe a little bit, and see what it does, and maybe they can go back into doing some advertising because they're content with the state of the game. They feel comfortable that it is bring more humans in, but before them having this weird selective hearing, if you will, it kind of painted that picture for me. Do you, from what you've seen, since you see things a little differently, do you think that's also a scary reality that we might be getting a game that, even though they promise to be 50-50, they could lean more towards teens than the other? Or is that just natural because 4v1s are 4v1s, and obviously there's a lot more survivors than monsters or teens, whatever? Like, is that just like a natural pitfall?
Yeah, I think the genre itself has that just what do you call it? Um you're kind of,
Like locked in
is it
that?
like, is the word cliche um trend or something? I don't know the exact word, but the genre is kind of stuck in there. Like when you, let's talk music.
Yeah,
When you
yeah,
listen to metal, you
I
know
can
how
see that.
metal is,
Yeah.
right? Metal will always be metal, no matter if it's progressive or thrash or power or doom. It has those elements of metal.
Yeah,
So
which,
asymmetrical will always have those elements of course,
oh,
four
M's in the chase.
four
He
will
says
have it,
natural inclination.
inclination,
Big
possibly.
old fancy word.
Uh, Team or Survivor or Hunters, whatever game we're talking, will always have a will always have more. It's because it's just co-op. You have help. You have help against the enemy, which is the one enemy.
Yeah.
It's like what happened. Okay, here's another random thing. What happened to Dead Space 3 when they added co-op? Changed up the game, made it easier, less fearful. You don't have to worry as much. You're not as pressured as much because you had that backup. And the
Hmm.
same thing with
Yeah.
asymmetricals. If you're on the side that
You're right.
has the
Yeah.
backup, you can slack. Or you can, if you try, then well, you got four people that are trying at their peak performance, and you only have one person at their peak performance. It's just a hard tug of war.
So I guess for the people, or maybe we could make the argument that Dead by Daylight.
Understand what you're getting into before you complain.
Yeah, like it's easy to go look at DBD and go, man, F these developers. They're so survivor sided. While killers, they get a crumb of OP and they get nerfed in a week or two. But when a survivor has a broken thing, it's like months or years before they fix it. But it's because they have to, because of the genre that they've chosen to blow up in or just partake. They're kind of stuck in that little bubble of, we have to keep them happy because they're like 80% of the player base, you know? Or,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing a number. I don't mean it's 80%, but they're the majority. Because naturally they would be. It's 4v1. It could be 60-70, so 60-30, 70-30, etc. But more, I guess the point is that even in VHS, they're not trying to be like a teen sided thing, but it's just naturally gonna go into that, and it's
Yeah.
no no hurt
It's not
towards
on
them. It's just
purpose.
what it is, right? Like, it's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah. It's not on purpose. It's not like they're trying to pick a side. It's just, w- what are you gonna do, man? You have four people tugging on the string or on the rope. Are you gonna win every time? It's kind of just the odds are against you. If anything, it should be that much sweeter when you win, and you should take the W
Mm.
and, don't be toxic about it, but be like, I did it. But, if you see, I feel like once again, I'm going to call upon the community. If you see either side struggling, don't be horrible humans to each other. Explain how they could do better. And instead of promoting hate for each other's play styles, why don't you promote tips so that each other's play styles can get better? That way you have more of a challenge in the long run. And we're not solely waiting for the next buff or patch. So we can all have an equal, right off the bat, equal playing field. So then the devs can focus more on what do we really need to fix and less on who's crying more so we can cater, because that's really
Mm.
what you don't want to go, the direction that you really don't want from any game developer. Because once they start catering, your game's going to be a totally different game in the long run. You won't see it now, and you probably won't see it for the next couple months, but from a year or two now, when they're the last players playing, the game's going to be too different, and no one's going to want to sit there
I
playing
guess
it still or queuing up for
I
it.
guess you could argue with that with DBD, because they know their player
Yeah.
base is survivors. It's like, whew, it's a lot of survivor people. I'm tell you that. I've been playing DBD since Silent Hill patch, and you learn that real quick. Um, I guess you could make that argument for DBD because even with a lot of the game's choices, it tend to favor us. I'm getting so confused now. Whatever. It favored teens a lot. The DS, dead hard changes, the maps getting safer, loops taking longer now, which is bad for killers. They introduced doors. You know, they're making these really I guess I would say interesting decisions in map designs has now become a problem for a lot of killers, and it's like they're bottlenecking themselves. And then when they realized, oh shoot, we kind of messed up, and they took the first step in addressing it, what happened? We nerfed all these OP perks because they were OP, and the community exploded. Like, we saw a dip in DBD numbers, and they weren't as bad as when MMR was introduced last year. That was pretty bad, but they they stopped the game being so one-sided. Granted, we can argue the balance of the game as a whole, but these a lot of people weren't carried by the perks anymore. It came down to their actual skill. I mean, aside from prove thyself and off the record, but that's another thing. Um, they they made the game feel good, for both sides.
Yeah.
Which we can argue, but to me, I think it's better to have that variety instead of like, oh, what are you running, Billy? Oh, same old DS, borrow time, unbreakable, adrenaline, or bond, or any preference perk, or circle of
Yeah.
healing, or etc. etc. And the only reason why they got so much flag is partly because what you've stated. They've built the game up and it was so one sided for so long. Like, some people were saying, "Oh, you just get good, my dude," But it's like, no, like it doesn't work that way. You gotta, like, the game is one sided. It's like saying, "Oh, that character's been broken for the last 6 years. Everybody's just used to it." But then when they say, "Hey, you know what? We should probably nerf that character," and they do, the people who are just used to that character being the same for so many years are now saying, "What the heck, bro? Like, the character's fine." It's like, no, the character's broken. Just because we got used to it doesn't mean it's right. It's still wrong. But I guess that's like the end result, if you will. Like, that's a possibility for VHS. No, that they'll, if the game keeps growing and doing well, of course.
Yeah. It's just one of those time things. And then, like I said, trial and error. It's not, how do people expect them to patch and balance and gather statistics when it takes time to do that? And then people want instant gratification it's like we don't even get time to get the numbers to see if what we changed was valid or not. And when it's not valid, we got to roll it back to change it to something else. Or if it is valid, now we got to take a look at everything else and balance that or make it on par to how we made this valid.
Yeah.
And people just don't get, like, I urge and encourage gamers, if you're really a patch reader or someone who takes the time into getting the nitty gritty of the game you're
I do
interested
that,
in,
but
like
not
you're
not for bugs, because that the bugs section is huge.
yeah, I like, if you're one of those people, implore you to go look up dev videos. Go look up what devs have to struggle with when one
Mm.
line of code is messed up. Go look at how engine, the
Yeah.
different types of engines, Cry Engine, Unreal Engine, Unity Engine, and go see how those engines can start acting up when a certain object doesn't react well to another one. Like, there's so many things that can affect the game, and one little fix can alter a whole bunch of other lines of code that can cause some issues. So I feel like if gamers were more educated, they would understand, oh, this is why the devs are taking so long. I should be more patient because I wouldn't want to be doing this myself. Hence why I play games and not make games. It's just a certain type of respect that I feel like people should be more informed on, because after I researched all this, I was like, okay, I understand the pains. I
This is
understand the
why I didn't
struggles.
learn code.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like there's it's a whole different world than just turning on the screen and hopping on and playing the game. And I feel like if more people did that, they would understand why things are the way they are.
Hmm. Somebody in chat saying that uh they kind of called it out, a a streamer that is known, and it's kind of just leaning towards there's nothing wrong, essentially, which is, I did notice that when I go to Twitch and you just look through the list of like who's on, there's like 10 teen pages. You know how you get the preview and then maybe you get like
Yeah,
one killer. It's like, what the heck, bro? And you go into one of them, or like I did, and then I chat, and it's just like, why not play killer? I was like, oh, the queues are too long, and it's like, we mean, like, they might be long, but they're shorter than teens. And then, other times I just got the straight up killer's too hard, and it's just like, well, the game needs killers. I mean, and then the follow up question was like, have you played killer? And some of them were saying, no, I've never touched killer. I'm just like, what? Like, what?
yeah,
Like, even me, who I'll tell you right now, I'm a killer main. I'll play Survivor, Teen, whatever, but I've never played it. You know, I've played him a tiny. I'm like 90% killer, 10% Survivor. Like, if I had to give you a number, and
on
DBD
VHS.
DBD is like 80-20 because I actually maxed out a character to at 100% perks. But it's kind of this weird, like, you notice it. It's like the people who play teens and they main teen, nothing wrong with that, but they play the game and say like, nah, the game's fine, or like, you know, it's like, are you sure it's
No
fine?
one,
The numbers aren't there. Like, if the game was fine, you
I
wouldn't be fighting the same people over and over again. Like, you would get a variety. And that's one thing I noticed
yeah, I
too.
don't.
It's like you get the same people. That's not a good sign. And I know it's like just going to negative Nancy mode, but it's true. And that's worrisome.
Yeah, that's the mindset I don't understand. Like, why why are you so content with the game being the way it is? That means it's never going to grow. Therefore your skill set's never going to grow because you're always winning. Therefore, wouldn't you want, and I'm not even saying a side, I'm just letting you know, wouldn't you want the other side to have a chance to make it more difficult for you so that you can think, use your mind, outplay, outmaneuver, survive, get better. And it's a constant, that's the tug of war you should be interested in, not the tug of war where I'm winning every game. I all I got to do is flick the rope to my side and I win. Why are people, I don't understand why people are content with that type of gameplay or mindset.
Yeah, I think that's the better
Because
word. Content.
yeah,
But there's no reason to be content in the game. They're just happy to be happy. Like, I'm happy I'm playing VHS.
yeah.
But it's like, I mean, we can be happy, but I mean, there's problems, you know?
Like, are
Like,
you winning, son? Hell yeah, finally. Like, okay. Like, I don't understand. I can't process it.
process what?
That they just are okay with easy
Oh,
wins.
mm, because, like, let's be honest. You like winning. I like winning.
I know.
Everybody loves
I
winning.
know, but
But
it's
how
like
you win is like
how
what some
ignorance is
people want.
bliss. There's a lot of ignorance is bliss.
Mm,
That's what I'm saying. Like, how are you going to
okay.
be blinded to the facts and completely brick wall any legitimate like discussion? That's the part I don't understand, because even on someone who's on the outside, I can still load up a game, see what's right and wrong with it, and see, I'm not going to totally blame, you know, oh, it's because this weapon or this character in the fighting game or this, there's obviously some checks and balances and other characters can counter this and that.
Yeah.
How come in, let's just say asymmetricals in general, how come it's okay for one side to be able to counter everything, be a, jacks of all trades and master of everything? Why can't both sides be jacks of all trades and then, trade back and forth blows of winning and losing? Like, it should be like a seesaw effect. You should not win every game and you should lose some so you are humbled and want to get better. That's it. Just doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's the whole point I play games, because I know eventually either I'm gonna come across a challenge that I gotta overcome. If it's an MMO, I grind till I get the gear necessary to complete it, or if it's a shooter, I learn the maps. I go practice in bot mode. I put it on the hardest difficulty in campaign so I can get used to reflexes and all that. Or fighting games, I go against y'all because y'all are better than me. I don't cry about it. In order for me
Oh,
to get
yeah,
good,
carry.
I gotta practice. Yeah, you were
Mm.
good too in Injustice. You're good in Smash, way better than me. So that's practice. I don't strictly say, oh, this game's broken because Omega's better than me. That's the wrong mindset. Like, you're never gonna get good with that mindset, especially when you. I'm not even gonna say the devs, especially when the game has a certain formula that hands you the win. You should be questioning that, and
I
then
think
get to a
that's
point
the
where,
point. The fact
yeah,
that wins are cool and all, but when the game is designed, it's basically designed a certain way, and you're taking the way the game state is, as in like, oh man, we won because we're good, instead of looking at it in a broader sense and going, oh, we won, but these nuances, because of the way the game has been framed up now, it kind of turns into our favor. Like, one thing I've been vocal about this, and some other people agree as well. There's a voice for us. I still believe uh killers in VHS need to have more information, because right now you play VHS, you start it up, you get in a match, your only cues are sound cues, trigger cues, like when somebody breaks or vaults something quick, and the breathing. After you injure somebody, you see the little chroma stain, the little tape stain, and like
yeah,
that's it. You look at DVD, for example. they have auras that can be used, whether it's Lethal Pursuer, whether it's Barbecue, you know, a Bitten Murmur, many perks. Nurse's Calling is a favorite. You have these perks that give you information, and I'm just surprised that there's not more of those. It's more of just like get it. It falls into the line of, okay, you know what? By the way, I don't have all the perks in VHS. I'm a total baby on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but are there more oral perks? And if so, what are they? But in VHS, I feel that they need to do some more of that, because when you start the game, unless you know the spawns, you know where to go. But to somebody who's super casual, who doesn't like really care to learn that deep into the game, they just play the game to play the game. They're gonna, do like me and spend the first few, like your first crucial minutes of the game, looking and not finding anybody until they have a gun on you. And that's not, and that's me having some experience, and I'm not, I can still may put a fight into it, but to a fresh casual person, that's gonna be like, what the, like, they're gonna go, what the heck, bro? Where do I go? Where do I look? You know, you could throw in the obvious things like, oh, just go to the weapons and you might find somebody crafting a weapon. Yeah, but not everybody has good headsets. Not everybody has like a legit speaker system or whatever they're using. Like the game falls too much into doing the audio cue and the splatter system. I don't know. It's a weird thing of me. I don't know what they need to do to fix it specifically, but I think something to pick up the information would be nice, because unless you're using headphones, I mean, it's going to be a little rough. And I think that's already a starting handicap for a lot of people, when there's not enough information to have you learn.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's like you're literally thrown in there and don't know what the hell to do, and then you have people attacking you with weapons.
That's what it turns into, and then nobody's happy. You're like, all right, cool. I just wasted 5 minutes looking for somebody, and now the whole team is like, oh, we're going farming today, boys, and then you're just dead.
It just, playing Monster in VHS reminds me of SpongeBob. I love young people. How many times I gotta tell you, old man? And he doesn't know what's going on, but they just beat him up, and
and
that's how
that's
it feels every
that.
time.
And honestly, I think that's the perfect meme. I mean, I know it's a meme. It's a fucking SpongeBob. That's like the perfect thing to show off what a genuine fresh casual will probably feel. And I know, people are not the same, but in a general term, that might be the most common reaction. What am I doing? Where am I going? What the heck is going on? Why are they killing me? And then you just die back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
And they say, screw this game. you know? And that's it. They're done. And the response from the community is, put more time into it, get good, learn the spawns, watch some YouTube videos, there's this person, this person, this person. But that's not a fair response when somebody is like a complete baby and they have to do homework to start playing a game, you know? Like DBD is probably better in that regard, because even though you start off and there's not much real information perks, the game gives you information by just finding somebody. You get the scratch marks. Big
Yeah.
old red lines, although as janky as they are, they help you find people. The vaults make loud noises and they give you a notification. Accidents too. And you hear the running, the footsteps, the breathing, the crying. You don't need audio cues. You can do visual cues, and that's the big factor, I believe. The only visual cue in VHS is the little splatter that comes up, which doesn't even last too long. And whenever they miss a skill check, you get the little bubble. I would say something like a little pursuer in VHS to start off the game, like a 5 second, 4 second little pursuer. So the game starts, you see everybody for a few seconds, and then it goes away, and now you have to decide where you're going. You know,
Yeah.
and it could be like I don't know, maybe 2 seconds at level one, then three, four, or something like that. But something to get to help somebody start the match. You know, like all right, cool. You know, the game's starting in. You know, within a minute, you gotta chase. Hopefully. Oh, we went over that. Uh, that was one of the first things that we talked about, like the stuns being changed. So if you want to check back on the VOD, you know, we did go over that. But our general consensus was they might need to take a look at stuns, maybe reduce them, or have them have a fatigue effect, or get rid of them. You know, there's different ways to go about it, but you can check that out. Uh, this will be a good question since we're talking about balancing. Do you think if we get to the Uber 50-50 balance, would that be the way to go at VHS? Like both
What,
sides
adding
are
more
50
awareness?
50. Yeah, like it's like right down the middle. And the only nuance
Oh
is
yeah.
skill.
Yeah, it'd be great. I think that's what every uh I guess legit gamer wants from every PvP multiplayer based game.
I think it's like
Finding
the
a way finding a way where the humans never feel stronger than the monsters separately, but as a group they're a force to be reckoned with. And then finding a balance where the monster is a monster and feels like this juggernaut of evil power, but you know, it shouldn't be OP. It should never be OP because it turns into picking a side. So that's how the balance should be. Somehow they need to figure out a way where the monster doesn't feel frail in any way, shape, or form, and the teens, unless in a group, don't feel like, to me, if a human teen, whatever you want to call them, uh,
I don't know. I go back
if
and
you're
forth.
on par, yeah, like if you're on par with the monster, then what's the point? Why isn't it a 1v1?
Hmm.
That's where the balancing should start.
So saying that, do you think VHS right now is equal? Would you say it's balanced to that degree? Taking into the balance that just happened too, like nerfing I don't know why they nerfed Puppet Master, but they did. And, you know, buffing the monsters uh respawn power and its safety, you know. They did do some tweaks
Yeah.
to teams, but I already forgot them, I'll be honest. Do you feel like it's getting close to that? Or do you think it's still too far off or something of the sort?
My biggest rule is I don't like giving an opinion on a game until it's been on the cooker for 6 months, especially when it's a live service game.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
I do amateur game reviews and whatnot, and I 100% hate it when other reviewers get the game day one, play it a couple matches, and then review it saying it's good or bad based off that. When,
Ah, okay.
especially in a multiplayer environment, it's so shifted by the variables. You're never like, okay, in my opinion, you probably won't experience everything VHS has to offer in terms of both bugs, gameplay mechanics, full enjoyment, the progression, unless you played it at a minimum of 90 days, 3 months, maybe 4 months. Because in my opinion, you wouldn't have unlocked anything relevant because
Yeah.
you're still a noob at that point. And you're still learning the ropes, you're still trying to get good. You already have other players that are getting good. So when they get better than you're going to be wanting to get better than them. And that once again shifts the whole thing of more time, more time, more time. and I feel like I VHS has time to grow, and it
It does.
just
It
came
does.
out of beta. It just came into beta. My bad.
Open
It
beta.
came out of closed beta.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's an open beta, which means they're able to get more statistics. And I feel
Okay.
like this is now where we wait until we get more data. I mean, if you care about the longevity of the game, yeah, wait until you get more data because we can't I don't want to write it off.
Would
Like
I
it's
would
too easy to
say?
say
Well, go on. Go on. You can finish up.
well, yeah, it's too easy to say a game's dead when we haven't even hit
Hmm.
October, and you know how everyone's gonna be all trendy and want to play a game, and then they're gonna be like, "What is this free game I've never heard of?" Because let's be honest, there's no advertising for it other than pretty much you retweeting retweets that I see. Other than that, I don't really see advertise. I have it downloaded on my Steam. I don't even see advertisings for the updates. So honestly,
Yeah, they're a bit quiet
no
on that.
one yeah, people might not know about this game. So when Halloween comes, who knows? The numbers might triple. Bigger streamers might throw this game out there more. Or people who are just, hey, I'm going to play 30 Days of Horror. And they're like, wait a minute, this game exists. So we can't even say how the environment's going to shift until that month is done with. And then who knows, holidays, or maybe, someone gets gifted the founders pack and they're like, hey, you should check this game out on Christmas, and bam, all of a sudden they're a fan. Like there's so many variables that can shift. You know, devs could be working on some badass updates we haven't even known. Maybe that's why they're quiet. Like I don't want to just say the game's bad because I'm losing.
Yeah,
That's
which
such a
is like
casual player thing to say.
the general thing that everybody
Yeah.
loves to do. What? I
So
died. This game sucks.
yeah. Yeah. So I usually try to give a game a couple months in the cooker before I'm like, it's good or bad. So I'm not gonna BS. I could be a negative person, and when I hate something, I hate something. But if you really want an unbiased answer from me, I 100% would suggest wait. Don't write off the game yet. Don't write off any game early. Don't listen to other reviewers who've only played it for a day. Like, make sure you're getting your sources from people who actually understand the mechanics and can
Yeah.
pronounce things from the game because that means they actually put the effort. So,
Well,
you know, it's
we
it's all just a
that's like optimistic thinking though. Like I just like how I would say I really wish people would just play both roles. But there's a chunk of
so they
people
can
that
learn.
refuse to touch killer. And the ones that do touch killer just say the same thing. It's too hard, you know. So I mean, you can call this an early statement, and that's fine. But I would say the game is balanced, but in regards of comparing one to the other, like if you just put them side by side to look at them, uh, I think Killer does have less points than Survivors because it could be the difficulty, the scaling on what you need to do, the learning. The learning curve is different, obviously. Um, there's just something not there yet to have people play it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be maybe more power to them because, like, I think if I recall, when like Werewolf was really strong after they gave him the buff, man, there was a lot of werewolves. Like people were playing killer. Like, oh fuck yeah, werewolf. And he had that like 30-foot long claw, like Jesus. Which even I thought was badass. But then they toned it down. And Dawnmaster too, he felt pretty. I think Dawnmaster was surprisingly balanced, even though he kind of feels like he's everywhere. But what the nerf they gave him, where if you get stunned, you lose a puppet now when you get stunned, and now you have to work your way towards getting back your puppets. I mean, I don't know. It's like a weird uh, they nerfed him against
Weird 2-for-1.
pre-mades. People that know what they're doing, but he's still the same when fighting anything else. Like a 2-man maybe, or like solos. But against a 3-4 man, it's like the same. I don't know, but I can't put my finger on it, but I would say that it is not in the favor balance of Monster. Because if they were really 50-50, we would see fair numbers on both ends. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like just the attention for it, the literal balance of it, you know, the fun aspect of it. I mean, it could be a lot. It could be many things, and or maybe I'm just saying this like as a scapegoat, but I don't know. It's just like Killer is missing something. I don't know what though. It's gotta get that little that I want to play Killer. You know, like when I play DVD, I like playing Killer. I most killers like even yesterday I played. I didn't repeat any killer yesterday. I just played it all. I played like almost half the roster, and it was fun. I just played it. I didn't care. Like that's what I don't know. You know what, Bird? You know what? They need to add Chucky. That's what they need to do. They need to add Chucky. I don't know. Maybe you're right though. It is way too early to say anything of like this game is thumbs up. You know, like the game needs to breathe. The game needs to find its own balance, advertise, show off, and hopefully we'll get some more stuff. The cool thing I will say is they've been teasing like a robot monster next, so it's coming pretty soon. I don't know when, but it'll be coming soon. That might help a little bit, and if it goes well, I'm going to assume that they would do like they will probably do the advertising now. Like maybe you'll see, play VHS, on YouTube and stuff.
That'd be pretty cool. You'd use Terminator vibe.
I think he's gonna do like an old school toy robot. Like the square body
Okay.
and like shoulders and stuff. Like the broad
Yeah.
shoulders. Got that rectangle head. Like the robot from SpongeBob when he has a nightmare. Kind of like that. But who knows? And wow, we were doing pretty good. For for the last topics of VHS and ASIMs, the do you have any last thoughts of what you could be tweaking with the VHS? Like if you just had to, maybe have some thoughts.
Give the killer another move that is only an awareness.
An awareness move. Like an inherent info perk? Or what do you mean exactly?
Yeah, like it has a pretty decent cooldown, but it's very informative. Like let's say Ward has infrared. If you're within a couple meters, he can see you through walls. Not the whole map because I think that'd be kind of broken.
Because right
But
now
maybe if you're
everybody
just
has something like that.
well, like I feel like having more than one, like if we gave him an attack, people would cry because having two attacks, then it'd be like, no man, they got more moves. So I'm going the give them cake and eat it route where it's just an info perk. It's not hurting anybody and it's not severely OP.
Oh, okay. So it's like I guess you mean is like a tech perk?
Yeah, sure.
Because like right now, from what they've described, when you look at the devs, it's like we have an aggressive perk, we have a like a defense perk, and then we have an info perk. Like Wart, for example, which I like playing Wart. He's got the leap, he's got his armor, and the echolocation, which gives you a delayed aura. So, similar to Werewolf, you have your steroid, you have your howl, which stuns and disables weapons, and then you have your secondary steroid, which is like you move, you can listen really really well, and I think it's smell, but it's more listen. I want to say it's more smell and like your uh you can hear like really far away. It's really really cool. And then I think Doll Master is just placing the dolls, teleporting, and summoning them, which isn't too much to be honest. I mean, I don't know. That could be an idea though. Give everybody like a tech perk, because what that reminds me of, if I'm honest, I know nobody plays it, but IDV, all the monsters in that game, they have like four perks. They have a basic perk. They have a like another a supporting one. You know, like it's sometimes like a trap or like a block off. And they have like a projectile ability or something that's like a that's similar to what they do. You know, like to the character's design. And then they have their passive that can like turn on or fill up or etc. You know, like my like to give an example, one of my favorite killers or whatever monster is still Soul Weaver, which back in the day she used to be like the number one killer. She is a giant doll spider that, as you walk with her, like as you just move around the map, you gain web as time goes on, and you can use the web to slap it around like little parts here and there. Like you could put it between like a door and like block it off, and it doesn't really block it off, but it just puts web on there, and the teens can break it or they can like just run through it. But if they run through it, they get webbing on them, and it stacks, and they get slower the more they have, and it takes longer to take off. But not only that, if you run through the webbing, you get a speed boost, and she has little things that go with that. Like she can spit the web out, and she can throw like a flying web piece at you, and it'll bonk you, and you get a pip of damage, and you get even slower. So it's like these little things that she can do. They sound super simple, but it it gets pretty hard to run away from a spider. You know, I mean they could do something like that for these guys. Maybe a perk ability. Because I was thinking like an ultimate ability. I don't know. That might be too much. No.
I mean, it all depends on how they balance it, honestly. But
Mm,
I don't. I think anything that is like attack like would be seen as, oh man, it's killer sighted now.
mm. You're not wrong though, because right now the game is balanced around three perks, I guess, or three abilities,
Yeah.
and then introducing a whole new set of abilities might not be the way to go. You know what I think would be better? A passive. Like how you said, say like for war for example, if you're in a chase or in like a if you're like in a fight, whatever you want to call it, you start gaining this little like timer, like you build it, and it gives you even more tracking information, like it gives you like predator vision, but you can see like the footprints and stuff even though they're like gone from like the little splatters. You can see the footprints still,
Yeah.
or like wolf. I think that could be interesting where like if you chase somebody enough for x amount of time, the next person you chase, if you find them again, or if you or like yeah, that could work. Like if you find somebody else or find the same person again, you can smell them, and you start seeing their sense, and that could be, oh, that's an idea. If you chase somebody, the longer you chase them or the more you're in contact with them, you start building their scent, and you start familiarizing their scent, and now you can see the tracks. Although they still go away, you can see them for a set time. That could be interesting. I mean, they might need to work on his hearing steroid, but
Yeah.
I mean that's not a bad idea, no. What will be Puppet
Yeah.
Master? I don't know. Maybe Puppet Master is like the more times you hit somebody with the puppets, uh the puppets. Oh no, because puppets are to give you information. If I'm correct, like if there's somebody close to them, it notifies you. Hmm. I don't know. And plus, I don't play that much Puppet Master. Hmm. I don't know about him, buddy. I don't know about him. You gotta think on Puppet Master.
Those are all valid though.
I mean, it sounds funny in my head, like if Ward gets a fight or two, he gets his vision to help him in the fight. He gets a mutation, and then same thing with the werewolf. After using your abilities, or maybe you're in a lot of chases, you start gaining these little scent trails, and that could be neat. Could actually be neat. Hmm. I'm just like shooting things out, but that wouldn't be bad. Um, if to go back on what I asked you earlier, I guess that might be the wrong question to ask you, since you like to take your time on learning the game, seeing what it does overall, and actually giving it the time to breathe. To go back over the question, would you say with what they're doing right now, is it the right thing that they're doing? Like, is it the right path? Or would
Um,
that be the same thing of give it time? Because I mean, to me, it looks like they got the ideas. It looks like they have something in the back of their heads, and they're trying it out with some
yeah,
fixes.
exactly.
And they don't. There's a popular saying that I've been hearing a lot. They don't want to throw out the bathwater with the baby in it. So
Yeah.
they don't want to just bam, banhammer this, or like buff this to all hell. They're doing these small things, but at the same time, don't you think if that's the right way to do it, like say that's the correct way, the safe way, wouldn't we need a giant overhaul just to get people to come in?
I don't know about giant overhaul
Oh, no, you
because
know what I mean, like a big change.
yeah, I I just feel like it's gonna happen in phases though,
Hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with that. It just once again the community needs to understand how games work.
Okay. No, do you know? The thing about Dollmaster, because somebody commented, Dollmaster has been tweaked like every other patch, and that's what I stated earlier. Is that I don't understand the reasoning behind them. I understand why they did it. The feedback was Dollmaster isn't fun, quote unquote. But it's like they made the change to help all the solo and maybe dual people who play. But this was like an awkward nerf to Dollmaster, because now a Dollmaster, you could arguably say he was equal to a 4-man or slightly better, right? Just because of the way he plays. But now you took off his pressure. If the Dollmaster loses any sort of pressure, it has a possibility to snowball in their favor now, which I don't understand why they would do something like that. It's like buff everybody else, but nerf it against like a solid teams. Like make the game harder for them. Which again, maybe it's just a consequence of buffing the solo experience, but
It
we
might be honestly what it is. It might just be a end game nerf slash buff, and they are not taking any of the mid tier to low tier player statistics, and maybe they're just taking okay, we nerfed Puppet Master to all hell. What can the good
yeah.
players do now? okay, now we need to work on
Oh, okay, I see
fixing,
what you're
buffing
saying.
them, working on it, seeing what goes, what stays. Because now that we
Yeah.
can see what an OG Puppet Master player can do working under these conditions, now we know how to fix them or balance them. Now we know what really needs to be thrown away or what really needs to stay. That's
Hmm.
another method that devs usually do to fix a character, because maybe they're not thinking of me or other low class or mid class players. Maybe they're just strictly thinking of the high tier in game users who are probably putting more hours than all of us. Let's be honest.
Which they
So
do.
they
They
would
they
matter.
they have stated,
Yeah.
like, the people who play the game, like they, if I'm correct, everybody in the team has at the least like 2,000 plus hours, or like I think it's like 1,000. Like these people actually play the game, which is I mean, even I gotta give credit where credit is due. They play more than behavior.
Yeah.
Behavior is a lot more by the numbers, by the book kind of a deal, except for this last patch, which you could, some changes were not by the books, which is interesting. So, like I said, it's like they're trying new things, and that's a breath of fresh air for DVD, which I'm pretty happy for.
Yeah.
And back to VHS, it's like maybe they see something that I don't see. you know, I'll I'll admit that, because at the end of the day, VHS to me is just like a fun game. It's a different breath whenever I'm tired of Dead by Daylight or like my mobile games. You know, since now we got this running up and well, I can play VHS and be fine. I'll lose whatever, it's all good, but it's different. And who knows? Maybe you're 100% right on that. They're making this change so they can eyeball if they're still suffering, if it's too much for Dollmaster. Maybe they can nerf the teen, or they can take the according steps. The only thing is, I just hope it's not too late on all of those things, because that basically means they have like a game plan to make sure they get people in, or
Yeah.
they got something going on to where they'll have sustainability. There you go. Which we kind of saw a gist of that with the founder packs, but when the numbers fluctuate the way they do with VHS, you know, it's still you still worry, And the one thing that bugs me, and I don't mean to just turn this around, I think even you remember this. What did everybody kept calling this game? It's gonna be
DVD
the
killer.
DBD killer. It's gonna be the ASIM of ASIMs, and it's gonna be the goat. And I genuinely thought that was the dumbest thing you could be saying, because one, the game isn't even out. Two, it's coming out in closed beta, so it's limited experiences. And we get it. You hate Dead by Daylight, but don't start calling every other ASIM that comes out a DVD killer. Because what else came out, Birdie? What else got betas? What was it? Prop Hunt. Carnival. Was it Horror Carnival? The DVD awkward cell clone. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is getting one.
Oh, the
Terminator is
Dragon
getting one
Ball
too.
Breakers.
Terminator might be a sim, but I think it's a survival game, so that might be a
Yeah.
thing. The
The Dragon Ball one.
yeah, the Dragon Ball, of course, and then there's another one that was like it's got the same style as uh what is it called? My Neighbor. It looks like
Oh
that
yeah.
game, but it's like,
Hello Neighbor 2.
is it Hello Neighbor 2? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's coming out soon.
It's basically an ASIM,
Yeah.
and
Oh wait, Secret Neighbor.
there you go. Cause it looks
Yeah,
like
it's
it.
the
It
one with
looks
the
similar.
kids.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it
And
is. It is definitely.
and then there's another game. It's like big in Japan, but not that big here. Some people were playing it and they like fell off because they like
Oh,
stopped.
the ghost one, right?
Yeah. You know what you want. Like the game looked really
Yeah.
cool too. It looked like IDV but bigger, but they like stopped support on it, and they like had like, and it was like a handful of servers. It was so bad and laggy. Yeah, it was. It was just downhill after a while. But there was a buttload of skins though. But
Yep.
to get back to the point, I think part of why VHS is having a struggle with the numbers. This is just my thought. Everybody looked at this as the DVD killer when it was just another game just trying to do its own thing, and
Yep.
it like they they just threw so much hype. They just threw so much hype, and it was just like an okay sandwich, you know?
Yeah, they only wanted it because they wanted it was in spite. It wasn't because they wanted the genre to flourish. They just wanted another game to die.
And that's yeah,
So that's not a
because
great way to bring a game into this world.
that's like having a relationship knowing that you guys are both toxic, and it's only gonna end up one way, you know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be toxic and it's gonna be abusive. And what happened with this game? Now we're I mean, I can't say it's abusive, but it's like a weird teeter totter of people saying that the game is fine, there's nothing wrong. They don't want to look that the numbers are not that
Yeah, it's a
great.
bunch of teens saying it's not a phase, mom.
Yeah, like no, mom, it's not a phase. It's fine. It's all cool.
Teens.
But I mean, who knows? Maybe it's just too early to call this out. It probably is. VHS has a long way to go. It looks like they're doing the good steps towards it. I'm still pretty hopeful with it. You know,
I mean, it's beta.
yeah,
Honestly, it's not even the full game.
yeah. This is very true, 100% true. But I think the whole gimmick of the DVD killer, quote unquote, and then people dropping the game like yesterday's leftover pizza. You
Yeah.
know, it just didn't help VHS. You know, and plus, I think also the biggest factor is because a lot of the people are from DVD, whether you like it or not. They thought it would be similar, which if you and me both know, we played a few matches, Birdie. These are not the same games. These are two different games.
Yep.
Oh, but that's enough of me going on a little bit long. Birdie, do you have any closing thoughts that you want to add?
Um,
Like the floor is yours. You can
I
talk for like the
guess
next 20 minutes if you want. Like go ahead.
now I'm just gonna recap on the old. If you're gonna be invested in a game, you should do your research and understanding how game engines run and all that. See the inner workings so you understand why updates aren't perfect.
Hmm.
And I've learned that from MMOs, like especially a lot of live service games where they're constantly updated. A lot of things will shift, and I played Neverwinter since 2014. It's
Oh man.
2022 now. The amount of mod shifts, nerfs to my classes, buffs to my classes, nerfs again, the whole back and forward, I dealt with it. And unless it's brutally broken, I feel like the community should understand that the devs are always testing. The devs are always working on things in the background. And if you took some time out of your day to research the issues that game engines can cause, you would understand why it takes them just a little bit longer or why that one patch wasn't perfect. Because this whole mentality of instant gratification, it's not so simple. Otherwise, we would all be making our own games and be
Right.
big developers being bought out by Microsoft because we're all geniuses, right? No,
All right, Birdie.
that's
We
not how
make
it
an ASIM
works.
with buff Amazon ladies. Let's go. Chop chop.
Yep. Snoo snoo.
All right, all right. Well,
But pretty much it's just like it's a given. Like it boils down to, if you think you can make a better game, have
Mm-hmm.
at it. There's plenty of videos out there, and you'll learn why it takes so long. But if you want to go the extra mile and build one, go ahead. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the whole negativity of, oh, this patch came out and it isn't to my liking. Well, there's 12 months. Plenty of patches are going to be coming out. It takes
Yeah.
time. Sooner or later, they'll get to your issue, because I've been playing loads of games, old and new, for more than half my life. I can see when things get broken, then get fixed. It takes a lot of time. It just depends on how much patience you have. So I would, like I said, implore y'all to do y'all's research, understand, have a better understanding of, if you really do enjoy the game, you should look for the, like, how the longevity should be, the future of the game, not what's happening now. Because sure, you may be having a good time playing your game, but if the rest of the community is having issues, you need to realize that without that rest of the chunk, your game won't last. Like, if my MMO, if I was the only one enjoying it, regardless what MMO I play, and the rest of the community dipped, I can't keep those servers online myself. They're going to shut down. So I
That's
understand that
true.
not everything is going to be my way. And there just comes to a you have to come to, what is it? A freaking, I guess, an agreement with yourself, or come to an
Like a
understanding
good,
that,
yeah, like a compromise maybe.
yeah, like, understand that the game needs to be a certain way to work. It shouldn't falter in any side, regardless of how you feel. Don't be emotionally invested if you're not going to be invested into the knowledge of how the game should work. Like that's something that people should take into consideration. And it's not just a genre thing. It's not the asymmetrical genre. It's all games. Once you get a better understanding on how games work, you have a better appreciation, and you tend to, in my opinion, enjoy them better and understand. And hell, if VHS is down for maintenance or something happens, that's why we have other asymmetricals to enjoy, not hate on. That's why we have flavors. Do you go to an ice cream stand and only get one flavor? No, sometimes you get vanilla, sometimes you get Rocky Road, sometimes, infinite possibilities. Once
Mm.
we start being negative and killing each game from each genre, we lose the variety. And it's okay for fans to want to join our fave, because we should be there to explain why it's our fave and help them out so that our fave game stays alive and doesn't die.
Yeah.
I just feel like the community needs to understand that in the long run.
Be a bit more open
It's all long
minded and
run.
not just take it out to
Yeah.
face value, like, and it helps a
Yeah.
little bit to, not just say it's fine because I feel it's fine. It's, you look at the whole picture and see, like, is it fine
Yeah.
for everybody? And when
Yeah.
there's a problem, obviously, do your research, because I mean, I can agree with everything you said. That's pretty much legit. I mean, even with DBD, for example, not to add this in, um, it took them years to fix, certain perks, certain bugs, and they've stated multiple times like they're working on it, but the way they've built the game, things take longer than they should. Now there are some people that have the technical skill and they're like, "Oh, look, I finished the bug fix for you guys," but you know that's them doing it on their free time. Like, we don't know what they're doing. They're maybe working on DBD. There's like 4 or 5 different versions of DBD. We don't know what they're doing. They got to do what they're gonna do. So I understand what you're saying. A lot of this is just, learn the people behind the game. Don't just start demanding things. Understand that there's people behind these projects, and you know we're not the only gamer. We're not the only person playing this
Yeah.
game. Like, my experience does not dictate this whole game. you know so good point. Really, pretty much nail on the head on a lot of things. Um, I guess for the closing thoughts on my end, I would say that my only concern, excuse me, my only concerns on the game as a whole is that they they take everybody's feedback to what they can, uh, with open ears and open arms. The last thing we need to do is start getting them to side with one side over another. You know, we'll give them time. We'll give them the feedback. Hopefully they listen and everybody gets their points across and they make the decisions overall to help the game in the long run. And you know, whether people like it or not, we can compare it to DVD. I know that's a weird astigmatism right now, but you can't compare DVD to VHS, but you can. They're both asymmetrical. They just have different core designs, but um, respect your friends, respect the people you play. Take the time to understand each other, understand each other a little more. Ask the proper questions, and I think the big takeaway would be is if you start having a question in VHS or any game, don't be afraid to just shoot an email to the dev, or like a tech support, or like go on their Discord, because everything has a Discord now, and you can DM them, whatever, and just tell them like, hey man, have you guys started looking into this bug? Or hey, I noticed that this is happening here, and maybe you can tweak, killer for this or teen for this, you know. And I think I guess I would say that's really it. You kind of stole the thunder on that one, Birdie. You went through everything pretty well on that. But with that being said, I like VHS. I want to see this game grow. I want to see more open conversations with it, not just everything's fine in VHS land. Oh boy, gee whiz! I want to see more of this. Um, for the ending of it all, this will go on YouTube pretty soon. I might do a small edit because we did have a small intermission in the beginning, so I will probably just cut that off. But to everybody who's here, oh hey, and I see some people too, by the way. Uh, got you, Birdie. Uh, can you set that up for me? That'd be great.